Hi, I'm Evan Marie Carr, co-founder of darkviolet.ai, where we have created Learn with Lumi, a platform that makes education streamlined and fun and wonderful. And I am with my husband.
I'm Dustin Carr. I am co-creator of Learn with Lumi, working with Evan Marie at darkviolet.ai. And we've made some pretty special things that we want to talk about and share with people. And I think the theme for today is how we view Learn with Lumi as a tool for teachers. I think that's one of the things that really separates us from other educational solutions, is that everyone is tending to kind of try to leave out the teacher in some of these approaches, making it easy for a student to teach themselves and so on. And I don't think that that's a good overall solution for the future. I think the teacher is still a critical part of the educational process and needs to be kept uh, in uh, in place in a productive way. And I think we can create tools that make that a lot better, make the teacher-student relationship better, make the teacher's experience of teaching superior to what it was before. So,
I agree. And what we've created 100% does that. For my own job as a homeschool mom, it took me from being completely frazzled every morning to only needing a few minutes to get things together and get going. And so that what I'm speaking of is just the simple streamlining of the logistics of being a teacher. But what we're going to talk about today is where we go even further and help the teacher actually do the teaching, help the teacher focus, help the teacher communicate with the student and understand what the student is dealing with so that the teacher can understand how they can help best and truly feel like they are able to step in and do that teaching rather than feeling like they're constantly scrambling and trying to keep up, because that's no way to live. And it's definitely no way to teach.
right, and I think that that's uh, the added benefit is then to go beyond even what a teacher could do, but providing the teacher with information that helps them to better assess a student's abilities, a student's learning styles, and what should be done next with any given student. If you think of all these tools in terms of a teacher-centric sort of design, it leads you down a much different path than whether you're only thinking of, oh, this tool has to work entirely on its own and be able to teach a student without anybody's intervention. I don't think that that's something that we should be aiming for. I don't think that that's overall a healthy thing for our society. I think we're already at a point where we're saying, hey, 1 out of every 30 people in our society should be dedicated to teaching people. That's effectively the numbers that we have, or there should be, one teacher for every 30 students on average. There's no reason we should ever go below that. There's no reason why we shouldn't have that dedication to our future society at least as much as that. And I think we can multiply the effect of a teacher with the addition of better educational tools that empower the teacher to do more. We've got big dreams of what we're going to accomplish. We've already accomplished an awful lot. I think we're gonna show a few things today along those lines that help us kind of show what the sort of things that we can do that would help teachers. That very simple tools that are obvious. I mean, there's a lot of things that we're doing, like automated grading and record keeping. Those are obvious things to do for a teacher to alleviate their burden. There's other things that, like with a math problem, that it's one thing to have an answer key for your math problem sets. It's another thing to be able to go through and get a detailed description of all the steps that went into creating the solution.
Yeah, and I actually have a good example of kind of a real life, real world example of this. This past week, I was working on pre-algebra with my 12-year-old daughter, and we got to a point, I think we were working on right triangles, specifically these 30, 60, 90-degree triangles. And to me, it made perfect sense. My daughter's brilliant. I couldn't understand how the words that we were reading the explanation that I was giving, how none of this seemed to add up to her understanding what it was that I was trying to communicate, that the book was trying to communicate, and so forth. Because right now, as we're building the new and improved Learn with Lumi, my children and I are very much working on the platform, but for some things, we're still working out of the books that we started the school year with. So I got to a point where I had to just step back and I said, okay, what does your brain do when you are looking at this problem? What does your brain do? And she had to really, really think to figure out how to answer that. And so that just kind of, I think, segues into what we're going to talk about here, because I don't think that a lot of times, I don't think teachers realize that the student doesn't realize how they think. I don't necessarily think that the teacher always realizes that the way that the teacher thinks is not going to be really, there's no reason to believe that that would be the way that the child, and when you have, like you say, 30 children, there are 30 different ways that
Yep.
those children could look at a triangle. And so I think what we're going to talk about really helps to, for one student to make it work, and to make it easier on the teacher, to make it so much easier on the child. But imagine for 30 students. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what we're talking about?
We are in the process of developing a variety of demonstrations with math. We're actually going to be developing our entire curriculum, math curriculum, K through 12, that we're building out. But we're starting out with some basic principles to demonstrate the approaches that we're taking. And one, like I was just talking about, was, I mean, you can go in and create a math story from an image. Now, there are these things that exist online from the App Store that you can get that will be able to take a picture, and it'll show you the solution to a math problem. That's not exactly the only thing a teacher needs. There's two different things that are needed for teaching this. One is that the teacher is able to generate a math problem from a picture, but also the solution, but also a way to then give that problem to the student and have an interactive tutor that can help the student through the problem at their own pace. So let's say we've got a textbook open here from our OpenStax textbook. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to do a quick screen grab here. Grab that and come over here, and I'm going to drop it right in here. I can prompt it to the, oops, why is that all caps?
Screaming at it.
Student should simplify this. Okay, so the problem is the student should simplify this. Let's see how it does. So all I've done is given it that picture and the prompt, and it's going to think for a little bit. So what it's going to do is it's going to format this into a problem that can be presented to a student, but it'll also then provide the teacher with a step-by-step solution. That solution can also be used by a grader or by a tutor, and this is what it looks like. So we're supposed to simplify the following expression by combining like terms. So this just does one at a time. Soon we'll be able to do an entire page of problems if that's really what we want to do. We can, it goes through the solution step by step, distribute the negative sign, group the like terms, combine the like terms, and then provide the simplified expression. And we can verify that that is correct. We don't always have to be able to read every single line here. We can actually then ask the system to evaluate itself. And this is a really cool set of features that we have that I will get this started and then talk about it. Let's evaluate it with the best model there is. So right now, this up here, the problem score and problems revised, those are blank until we click validate. So now it's evaluating. Okay, so it decided to go with a completely different problem for some reason. The current problem involves simplifying a fourth degree polynomial by subtracting a third degree polynomial. While the concept of combining like terms is introduced earlier, working with exponents up to the fourth degree and subtracting polynomials of this complexity is typically covered in Algebra 1, grade 8 or 9, not grade 7. Well, I specified it as grade 7, so it evaluated it and said, it's actually more suitable if I do it this way.
I
So it's
was
only
gonna
going.
ask about that. That's awesome that it did that, because I haven't seen it do this yet, where if you put a grade that does not necessarily match the level of the math that you're at. So I think this is incredibly cool that you could easily give it um, a more complex problem and tell it, give me a problem 2 steps before a child would learn this problem, and so forth. So I can see how you could
Yeah.
work your way up to a 7th grader being able to solve that problem by getting example problems that lead to that problem.
Yeah, that's it's very impressive. And so we're building on this. So there's a lot of other things that we can do. In fact, why don't we show one other thing? And that is, let's see, we'll let it generate a story problem from scratch, meaning it's going to come up with its own, but it's going to target it for a specific student profile. So in this case, the student is named Joe Bloggs. He's in grade 5, and he has interests: bicycling, soccer, and golf. And so it's going to create a problem that tries to integrate some of his interests. Let's give it at least 2 steps to the problem. And he's in 5th grade. He can use addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And so we will submit that and ask Gemini to build us this model. We have a lot of different models to choose from because we're testing them out, seeing which ones produce. Hands down, right now, the latest Gemini 2.5 Pro is a monster. It's absolutely amazing, and is probably going to be the one that we go with. But the DeepSeek R1 is also very qualified. So okay, so what did it come up with? It says Maya loves riding her bicycle around her town and nearby parks. This week she went on 3 rides and recorded how far she went each time. Okay, so it's a good problem. Seems like about a 5th grade level, and provides a solution in a pretty clear, concise manner, step by step. And we have the total distance she biked and the average distance per ride. So let's go back to our Gemini 2.5, and we'll validate the problem to make sure there's not any hidden problems with it. Looks like it was a good problem and that it got everything right. So this goes through the same process of giving it to a lot of different students to simulate answering the question, and then validating the problem and the solution to make sure that it's suitable. In this case, it decided it did not need to revise the problem or the solution. It was good as it is. We'll talk about the math talk I think in a separate video. We can also just go in and type in a problem if you want. It's going to be the same thing. Don't need to go through that, but you can type in anything. I'll go and type it. Find the roots of x squared plus x minus 6 equals
It's going to be like in 5th grade.
Are
you sure?
Okay.
I mean, you can. We can see what it does.
Well, at this level, it doesn't take into account the grade. It does at the validation stage.
Okay.
And we submit that. And yeah, the one thing I haven't shown is how the student interacts with that. So I'll show that with this one. Express the roots as integers. Okay, which is good because they are. So yeah, it came up with a good solution, a good problem and solution, and it formatted this. I had to type it out, long form, but now it's got a nice LaTeX formatted math that the student can read. And now
I would call attention to the LaTeX. We've got a few little issues with the LaTeX in the explanation, which we're working on getting that smoothed out.
A lot of times it'll fix that in the.
Oh, that's right. I forgot we have that.
You're
so cool.
On this. And one thing, I don't have a place where you can prompt saying, hey, I know that there's an issue with this. Will you fix that? I should add that in.
Yeah, we should add that. That'd be great.
But we can hit the validate problem again, and
see what it does.
And we'll see if it can improve that formatting a little bit. And
then we will be the student and interact after that.
Yeah, we're going to do student interaction. It did not think it needed to be revised, so it did not find the issue.
All right, we'll talk to it.
We do have to fix that. Let's go and solve this with Lumi. Okay, so let's say I think I need to factor that, right? So, what we don't want is for Lumi to just give it the answer. So let's see, let's make sure Lumi doesn't just blurt out what the answer.
Ask it,
And
can you just tell me the answer? Let's just see how well we've done. The
well, no,
first thing the kid's gonna try.
okay.
Please, Lumi, don't let me down. Please, Lumi. What is it?
Okay, I understand how you'd like the answer, but my goal is to help you learn how to find it yourself.
Yay.
You were on the right track thinking about factoring. Remember, we're looking for two numbers that multiply to -6 and add up to 1. Well, she kind of gave away a lot of it there.
I
He kind of
love
did.
you, Lumi.
It kind
But still.
of. Can you think of any pairs of numbers that multiply to -6? Okay. One of them has to be.
Oh wait, yeah, and leave the typos in and let's see how it does because kids will do that too,
And
Let's see what it does. I think that that's even a great test. Okay, what do we get?
okay, so it didn't.
Lumi wants to just make sure. Lumi knows you're willing to goof around, so we're gonna have to be explicit here.
I should say it's finished this time. Yeah. So now it finished.
How'd you do?
It didn't give
Flexibility
me very good.
20%.
Okay.
Ouch.
This typically wouldn't be for the student. This is for the system to have some feedback about where the student is at, and then for the instructor to use that. The feedback for the student is here. So you correctly factor the quadratic equation to x plus 3, x minus 2, and then use that to find the roots x equals -3 and x equals 2.
I think that was awesome.
It did a pretty good job.
Yeah. And I mean, imagine having a child go through, say, I don't know, 3 or 4 practices like that versus doing a page of 30 problems where, where if they had mistakes in there that maybe they wouldn't even find out until 3 days later after it's been graded. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
This
well,
way
and
you're
that's
actually having one-on-one the whole
it.
way.
That's absolutely critical. So much of our education system is not targeted at actually educating the child and in the best possible way. The whole method of assessment that we have right now of students getting their answers back 2-3 days later, a week later, that's counter to everything we know about education. That where the window of opportunity that you have to actually have a teaching moment with that child with the problem that you've given them, which is the only reason to give them a problem, is to have a teaching moment. You've lost the chance to have a teaching moment in about 20 minutes after they've done the problem. And so the idea of getting these problems back 2-3 days later and thinking that that's teaching the student is it's missing a lot of what we know about how the mind works.
And the concept of drilling, which I personally embraced for myself because I was the kind of student who I found comfort in drilling things like that. And a lot of that probably has to do with my neurodivergence, but not everyone. In fact, a lot of people hate drilling information. And when it comes down to it, drilling information is it's borderline psychotic, to be honest, because that is not using information, that is trying to pound information into your head versus having a discussion about information, which I'm going to use the word organically, helps you to integrate that information into your overall understanding of the world around you.
Yeah.
Because you have interacted with that information with another being. In this case, it's Lumi, but that was an exceptional experience in my experience compared to a kid sitting down and maybe searching YouTube for an explanation of how to do a problem and then going and doing the problem, but then not understanding, if they got the wrong answer, where did I go wrong? I don't even know. Like, how do I even go back? And yeah, of course you could go and you could put that problem into, say, Chat GPT or something, and it would spit out its answer to that, but that is not the same as sitting there with an entity that has been created to do specifically what just happened, and having that one-on-one kind of not really a push pull, but a give and take sort of experience where the kid can walk away feeling like, wow, I actually understood that. How many times in school did you walk out of class being like, oh my goodness, I just understood that, something that was really, really tough. I honestly don't remember many. I remember figuring it out myself after, banging my head against the wall sometimes, but not literally. I don't know. It kind of gives me chills, just the thought of how much that could help kids
Oh
who
yeah.
struggle.
Yeah. And having it be a system that's designed with the education in mind, because I mean, your ChatGPT is not designed for that. ChatGPT can facilitate that to some degree, but it's up to the user to decide to do that. And in this case, the user is a student, and the student wants to just get done with what they've been given, because that's all they know about school, is that it's
Yeah.
something to get done with. That because again, they're disengaged from learning very often, and so everything about Learn with Lumi is about re-engagement. And our new math system that we're developing, I think, is going to be a huge step forward for everybody.
Yeah. And actually, I just got a thought as we're talking about this, and this is just to kind of like pin it down. We know that we learn more, we learn better by teaching, right? And it seems to me that this process that we just went through, and maybe we can expand upon this, it incorporates a little bit of that feeling of teaching, because by describing what it is you're doing with Lumi, it's almost that process of when you're teaching another person to do something. So, which inevitably teaches you. I mean, that's just
Oh
across
yeah.
the board, you having to put that communication out there. And well, I think we can expand upon that,
Yeah.
where,
Well,
there's a situation where Lumi doesn't know how to do this. And so help, I think
oh
that could
yeah,
be fun too.
we're going to be adding a lot of the multimodal features into this. And, we already can take the picture to generate a math problem. You'll be able to take a picture to show your work, so that you don't have to write it on the computer. You can write it on your paper, or you can write it on the computer in a canvas, in a picture. You could draw pictures on the computer to show an answer. Because that's what math is. Math is so multidimensional all the time. It is. I'm someone who's used math for most of the days of my career, and the ways that you use it are so variable. I mean, that it's primarily a communication that you're trying to do. The communication is a huge part of anything that you do. It's like you find an answer, then you want to communicate that answer to someone else. You got to communicate it in a really precise way so that somebody else can understand it. That's what mathematics was created for, and that's what you spend most of the time doing is taking the things that are in your mind, and expressing them in a way that anybody else reasonably educated in the topic can also understand.
And I think it's important to also remember that math is a language in and of itself, and that in the brain it is processed in the same way, in the same place as language. And it's been so far removed. It's processed in the same place as music also. And so it's all been so pulled apart, because we think that in order to teach large groups of children, we have to compartmentalize everything. And maybe to some degree, we've needed to do that. But I think, regardless of what the past was, I think that now that we have the tools to make these changes that can completely reintegrate everything so that a student can have a whole education and have a whole understanding of everything that they learn, whether or not they don't even have to like necessarily, it doesn't have to be their favorite, but at least we can help them find a way to care by helping them integrate it into their way of thinking. And that is something that only cute little niche schools that I could never afford are able to do until now, because
Yeah.
it is labor intensive when you are requiring a human to do that for every child. Like,
Right.
that human has needs too.
Even in the best case of a school that you pay a lot for, you're going to get that number down to 8-to-1 at the best. I mean, it's not going to get lower than that, and that's still not as good as 1-to-1. 1-to-1 is the optimal number. We know that for a fact. Students that have, and this has been known for some very extensive research, students that have a personal tutor outperform everybody else that doesn't. End of story. And so, that's not economical though. That's not economical for us to expect, there'd be one person available for every single student. But now there's something closer. It's not going to be the same as having just another human dedicated to the student, but it is going to get us a lot closer than we've ever been before.
I definitely think that the human element, like we said, that this is a tool for teachers. I do feel very strongly about keeping that human element as closely tied in as possible. Imagine how many children one tutor could help by having a tool like this to spread their work across student to student to student, and imagine how much more information they will have about their students, like information they can hold. They don't have to remember like that was the experience that we had in that tutoring session. They can actually go and look up how that child did on that math problem, just ages, eons beyond anything that we've ever imagined. This is like the education that royalty got, back in the day when they got all the tutors. Alexander the Great got everybody showing up to help him, right? Wasn't he the one who had what's his face for a tutor?
Aristotle. Yeah.
Thank you. I was like, it's one of the three.
But yeah, they always did, yes.
And I remember studying that with the kids and being like, oh my gosh, I want you guys to have Aristotle, which, they have you. So they practically, have their Aristotle. That's what we should call you. But I think that all kids should have the chance to have an entity that they can talk to who say that Lumi cares or doesn't care. I don't care. I feel like Lumi cares. I think the child can feel like Lumi cares. And I think that that is a healthy relationship as long as the child is still interacting with, sharing their joys, sharing their successes with another human being. And imagine how much more there's going to be to share. Imagine how much more excitement and joy there will be in that child's voice when they talk about factoring quadratic equations, when they have an experience like that versus the one that they really just want to forget about and go play Roblox. I think. Okay. Do quadratic equation kids want to go play Roblox? I don't know. I think they all do. But anyway, thank you so much for listening to our spiel about everything we've been working on and our excitement about how much we are going to help kids learn and teachers teach and humans evolve. That is our goal, is happiness and learning.
And learnwithlumi.com. We'll have our new math activities demonstrations up very soon, within the week. Lots of fun new things going on. But we also have a number of free activities, free lessons available during our beta release.
Go check it out.
To learn more. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Learn with Lumi, light the way, making learning bright each day. Effortless and so engaging, every child's potential blazing. Oh, learn with Lumi, here to stay, turning learning into play, helping families to see a future bright with harmony.